Thank you for joining me on today's episode of the OurView Podcast. On today's episode, I welcome my friend, Lindsay Simone. Join our conversation as we talk about our over 20 years of friendship and how the name and concept of OurView came to be from our night out on the town with the boss, Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
Thank you all for joining us today on the OurView Podcast. To all of our new listeners, thank you for subscribing and listening. Today, my guest on the podcast is my longtime friend, Lindsay Simone. And for those of you who are just listening to the audio version, Lindsay and I are actually wearing the same t-shirt,
Yes.
which is the OurView illustration t-shirts. We are both wearing the same t-shirt. We did not plan this, I promise. We just are connected in such a way that we think alike sometimes.
Very true.
Which is really funny. So for those people who do not know you, Lindsay, can you just introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what you would like people to know about you?
Sure. So I went to high school with Art. So even though he says Arthur, I'm definitely going to stick to Art always because that's how I first was introduced to him. And that's what it's probably always going to be. So Art from day one was just you were a fan of mine. Like when I was in the musicals and everything, you were always there as such a great support for me. And, I just remember us always getting along as friends, going out of our way to talk to one another and say hello. And actually the little things that wound up being such big things that connected us as longtime friends, So we first met in high school, and it's funny because you and I were just talking, we can't even pinpoint the exact time we became friends.
Right.
It just kind of what always was, I guess, And I would say in college really is when I don't want to say reconnected, but connected on a different level. When I was away at college, I remember you coming and visiting and even coming to softball games and my musicals. And, we always kept in touch. So a little bit about me now is I'm a school teacher, and I've always loved incorporating your stories into my lessons for my students to just kind of really drive home that message that they're capable of anything. And there's nothing that really should hold them back. And aside from being a teacher, I also coach softball. And that's something you and I had a lot of fun with doing, was kind of first, before this all started, was kind of seeing what sports were out there and available for those that have some disabilities. Because we kept saying what a difference that would have made for you growing up,
Right.
had those things been available. And many moons ago, I was Miss Camden County in 2006, and my platform was to raise awareness for Challenged Athletes Foundation. And that's really what kind of started you and I in this whole direction of digging deeper of what is out there, what is out there for kids that want to be involved that struggle to find things, You've always done a wonderful job involving yourself in people's lives and making new friends. But, there's a lot of kids and people out there with disabilities that aren't as outgoing. So it's a little more difficult for them to find those avenues.
Yeah, it really, as you mentioned, it was, back in high school where we met, and I can't believe it was that long ago. And
I know. Let's not count.
And I will always be Art to you and a few other people. That's fine. I'm okay. I don't know why I like to be formal sometimes and call myself Arthur. I don't know.
Oh, that's okay.
It's weird too.
Because that is your name.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's right. But we, so you and I, like you said, we can't pinpoint, what made us become friends. And, we have mutual friends from high school as well. And it's just like it always has been. You and I, we became friends in school. And I just remember you and Corey and some of the other girls who you were friends with, you all were just always
Yeah.
so kind to me and included me in things. And I'll never forget it. Being in like different lunch groups with you all and just inviting me over to sit with you and,
Yeah.
just little things like that. But it really meant a lot. And I fit in. It's so interesting. Some people ask me, like in high school, what group did you fit in? I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
was friends with everybody.
Which is a true testament to your personality and how open you are to people getting to know you,
Yeah.
as well as I do have to say, obviously I'm partial, but I think we really came from a great high school. Like the years that we were there, the kids we were with really were just great and wanted to know everybody, so there were different groups that hung
Yeah.
out and it worked,
Yeah, it did. It really did. But we just to connect from high school and to stay friends, like you said, when you went to college and you were in playing softball and
Mm-hmm.
different musicals and things in college, and being able to just maintain a friendship through all of those years is like really very rare, because you don't have many people
Yeah.
that you stay close to over the years that people move away and go to school. And so it's really really great to still be a very close friend of you, and now with your husband Joe and your kids,
Yeah.
and it's just really really great and really awesome to think about. And times your family has invited me to your Christmas party. I was actually Santa at one of your Christmas parties one year.
Well, you're a part of the family, so
I am.
my whole family is friends with you now, and
Yes. Yeah. A couple weeks
if
ago,
you're not,
a couple weeks ago, I did participated in a video for your nephew for his birthday, and so
yes, see, and if you're
yeah,
not there at the Christmas party, it's actually weird now.
right. It's like
It's like, why is he not here?
yeah. I have received messages from some of your cousins like, where were you the other night? Like we were
Oh,
we were
yeah.
looking for you at the
Oh,
Christmas
yeah.
party. No, I was going to say, I remember one of your cousins the year after I played, the year after I was Santa at your Christmas party, I saw your cousins in Ocean City, and one of your younger
Oh,
cousins
yeah.
went and told their mom, Santa's outside. Like, this is the guy who was Santa was outside.
So just give a little backstory. My family always does this fun Christmas gift thing, and all the gifts, it's one of those things where you can get a gift, you pass a gift, and inside one of the gifts, there's always a Santa suit wrapped with it. So if you get the Santa suit, then you have to be Santa for the party.
So I wanted to have you on this podcast because it is called the OurView Podcast, and it's called OurView for a very specific reason, for two different reasons. So back in 2009, two very different experiences that I had. The first was I was with my nephew. I picked him up from school one day, and the way that you had to pick the students up, you were able to wait out on the sidewalk. So I had to pick him up from school in Marlton, and I had to take him to my mom's house, probably 20 minutes away. And I was using my crutches that day, and all of a sudden, they get dismissed from school, and he comes out, and we're standing there talking for a minute, and then we get in the car. Well, he didn't talk the whole way to my mom's house at all. And I was asking questions. How was your day? Fine. What did you do? Nothing. It's a very short answer. So I knew something was wrong, and so I just asked. I said, "Well, what's going on? Is school? Somebody bothering you in school?" And he said, "No, I'm fine." I said, "Okay, well, I know you're not."
Yeah.
So what's going on? So he ended up talking about how he was annoyed and upset that the kids were staring at me.
Okay.
So, and I didn't pay attention to it. I had no idea. I said, "What kids?" He said, "The kids, my friends, when I came out of school, and they were looking at you, and they were staring, and they pointed at you." I said, oh, okay, fine. Like, it's not a big deal. And yes, it is. It's not right. And he said, because there's nothing wrong with you. And I said, you're right. I said, but they don't know that. So that was
curious. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had to explain that to him. And I said, go back to school tomorrow and tell them who I was, tell them I was your uncle, tell them that I drove there and I drove you home and that we went to New York and we've been to, Philadelphia to the car show and we've done things together, because they don't know what crutches are and why I need them. So it was that experience that happened in the spring of 2009. And then you and I, the second experience of how OurView came together, you and I, we took a train up to North Jersey to see Bruce Springsteen.
Which was incredible.
Yes. So we took a train up to the Bruce Springsteen concert, and a lot of times with you and a lot of my other close friends, I see you all often, but I'm often in one spot. We go out to eat, we meet somewhere, or we go to your house, or we hang out in one location. So it's very rare that I get to travel with a lot of my friends. So they don't see the experiences that I have being a wheelchair user and the daily struggles. Yeah, the daily struggles, the inaccessibility of it all. So I think we ran into every single possible obstacle that night. It's a great night.
Definitely opened my eyes. I remember being frustrated for you. It was just an incredible experience. And, I'll always remember that train ride too, because we, obviously we talked the entire time about everything in our lives. Yeah. And it was a really good moment and a good experience, a good time for me to ask you a lot of questions of some of the things that you're facing, know. And one of the things I remember saying was when we got off the train is I said, well, what do you do if the elevator's not working?
Right.
I don't know if you remember me asking you that. And you're like, well, I just get myself up the steps. And I'm like, well, what if you have your wheelchair with you though? Because usually you bring your wheelchair when you're going to be walking a lot or traveling a great distance. And that was one of the eye-opening experiences that you said to me was, well, I just have to kind of drag myself up the steps. And of course, in my head, I'm like, ew, like it's disgusting there. It's dirty there. You can't put yourself on that ground.
Right.
And it just kind of showed me like how important it is for these things to be working, the elevators to be working, or for there to be help in place for you.
Yeah.
And then of course there comes the ultimate, situation when the train stopped and I had asked the question. I felt like I was getting a little bit panicky because I'm like, I feel like they forgot us. And you're like, no, we'll just be last. And I'm like, I feel like they forgot us. So then you hear the, right?
Because they have to, because on the trains, it's the New Jersey Transit train. They have to get what's called a bridge plate that goes between the platform and the train. So it covers the gap that occurs between the train and the platform. And they are, even to this day, and that was 10 years ago, even to this day, the bridge plates are locked up on the platform. So, you have to hope that the conductor remembers that you're on the train and that they, remember what stop you're supposed to get off at. And they have to go unlock the bridge plate, put it down so you can get off. Then they have to lock it back up. And it's a whole complicated process. Like I said, that was, that existed 10 years ago, and it's still the same process
today
that exists today. But that was one of the things that we had talked about. Why couldn't they modify it so that the bridge plate could fit somewhere on the train? Correct. So that they wouldn't have to get off the train to unlock it and put it back and then get back on the train. So we, you and I started this whole conversation of, I think it was based around a lot of the processes that go on that could be streamlined and modified to make it better for everybody. Easier for the people that have to do that work, and easier for me and to not feel forgotten. Because like you said, it got a little bit nerve wracking, I think, because you saw everybody else was gone. Everybody was up the steps
Yes.
and they were already gone. And it was like, all right, they're coming. And you were like, I don't think they are. And I said, no, they
No.
are. And I was
And
secretly praying they were.
I remember having one foot off the train and one foot on the train going, hey, like,
Yes. So the door wouldn't
get somebody
close.
to come help. Yes. And I think that it's important too for people to know how our conversations is, you and I start off talking about one idea and it just goes in a million different directions.
Yes.
And that's very much what happened that day. And I remember you saying, it's okay, because that's what you do. Yeah. It's okay. And I go, no, it's not okay. They need to know, like, your struggle is your view. And that's how it started, right? We looked up at the logo.
That's exactly what
we looked up at the handicap. And I go, your view, our view. Like, our view. They need to know your view.
Yes. That's exactly how it happened. And we came up with that logo, with the logo and everything that night. And just the importance of sharing stories of people with disabilities and just hearing their stories and hearing their experiences and how they are different, and how through sharing my story and other people's stories who have disabilities, how they can create change in the world somewhere and in a lot of different places. Because and I remember we went to this concert, which was at the old Giants Stadium, and we were sitting in the designated handicap area.
Best seats of my life.
Yes, so it was so much fun. That was such a fun night.
Next to the drummer's parents.
Yes, I was going to say next to Max Weinberg's parents, and but we really were able to see literally taking the big picture of this whole stadium filled with people. Yeah. And realize how very few people with disabilities, visible disabilities, were at that show. As far as people in wheelchairs or with other assistive devices, it was amazing to see a stadium filled with thousands of people, and you see a handful of people with visible mobility disabilities. Right. And that's not to say other people didn't have other types of disabilities, but the ones you could see of, like I said, mentioning using a wheelchair or walkers or crutches, that number was very low. And it really, for me, it made me realize at that moment that it is important to tell our stories, because things need to be improved, because they may not have a lot of riders that come on to the New Jersey Transit trains. So it's no big deal to get the bridge plate every few hundred rides, taking that Northeast Corridor route. But if more people with disabilities found it to be more accessible, maybe they would be on the train more often.
Exactly.
Because you do have to worry about getting on and off the train. You have to worry about if the elevator is going to be working when you get to your stop. You have to make sure that your stop has an elevator, number one, because not all of the stops have elevators. So it's a lot to take in, and a lot to.
Well, even you were saying that day, getting a taxi, even.
Right.
Every area seems to have some kind of challenge with it.
Yeah, and that's and that's the thing. Like you said, I do say, "Oh, that's okay. It's okay." That's because I never know if that's the craziest thing. If it's early in the day, that might not be the craziest thing we experience. Like, I have to save my frustration, because it's like, okay, this is the first of many possible things that could be inaccessible for today. So, like, let's not get upset about this one. Might be something else.
I admire you for that. I always have. I mean, just how easy things are. I don't want to say how easy things are for you, because that's not what I mean. But you don't see it as a challenge. You just as a place, like, I'm just going to go through these things. I'm going to experience challenges, and that's okay for today. But you always find a way. You don't let your disability limit you. You never have. And I have laughed with you a lot over the years. Like, where's Art going today? Because you travel everywhere. You do everything. My goodness, you do more than me. I feel like you're out and about. And sometimes it's humbling, and it just puts things into perspective of, when you say, oh, I can't do this because of that. And then you look at your situation and it's like, well, art makes it work.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's important for people to see that too, that you really are an inspiration for people. You know?
Well, thank you so much for that. And it's really, it's part me, but then it's also part, people like yourself. I know you saw the post yesterday. I was out, at a lake with,
Yeah.
with Nicole and Nick and their son Parker. And, you know, it's that part of it too, because, the pictures of me at the lake, and I was on this very skinny dock, going out to this island that made a lot of people nervous, apparently.
Yeah, I look at that and I'm
I
like,
was in my
art.
wheelchair. But, you know, it was partly, you know, again, it's part me, but then it's part other people, the people I surround myself with, because our friend Nicole is a nurse. So she was like, oh, I don't care what we have to do. We're getting you in your wheelchair and we're going to get you, you know, to the spot where we go fishing.
No.
Right. You know, it's like we're getting you in your chair, and between me and my husband, we will get you over there. Like we will make it happen. So it's partly me wanting to do things, and then like you said, it's the other half of it is you all not letting me say no. Like we're doing it.
Yeah,
like we're going to make it happen.
We're going to figure out a way.
Yeah, we'll make it happen, and between the 5 of us, we'll figure out how to get you there.
Yep.
So it's really it's really great because I can you know, I have that own drive and desire to do things, and then it's like I have a great team of people with me that are like, yes, you're doing it. Like we're all doing it, and we're doing it together. and it's always been that way.
It has been, and it's like, you know, a family. Like anybody you come across and meet, it's like you end up becoming a family member to them.
Yeah.
You know, and that is, I mean, you're so ambitious, but you're also a very good friend in the fact like you do keep in touch with your friends. Also, you know, you go out of your way, always have. I like I was saying, right before this, I was like, oh, I wonder if I can find my high school box, which is not going to happen in 5 minutes. But you know, I still have like letters that you've written me and mailed, because you were always at friends. Also, even when I saw you, you're like, I'm gonna mail a letter because it's nice to get mail. And it was always so beautiful to open. But I have them and I've saved them. And it's things like that you know, it's just, that's what we see in you. You're just a good friend, you know, and you make it easy.
Lindsay, this is supposed to be about you, not about me.
No, it can't, because that's what comes out. You know that. Listen, you know, when I talk about you, this is what happens.
I know. Well, thank you. And it goes back to the, like you and, you know, people are really good to me. And that's what, you know, that's what I pay attention to. And, you know, I'm fearless in the things that I do because of people like you who are, like I said, that are just like, all right, we're doing it, and you're coming, we're going, and you're coming with us.
Yeah.
Like we're going to make it happen. We don't know how we're going to make it happen, but we'll figure it out, and we're going to make it happen. So that's the important thing. So it's just, you know, it's really the, like, yeah, I like I said, I do have that fearless side in me, like where I think I can do everything, but then I have those people that don't tell me no to things.
Yes.
Like, should I do this? And everybody's like, yes, you should do it. All right. Like, I don't know why I said that, but since everybody agrees with me, like, all right, let's go.
But
so it's really...
and I love how this, you know, starting your own awareness has really even pushed that for you. You know, it's allowed you to get in front of more people and do more things, and just expand who you are, you know?
Yes.
Just everything you do now, the awareness, like the couple times you were able to come into my classroom, I loved and appreciated that, because my students were able to ask you questions in a comfortable environment where they might be nervous to do that otherwise, you know?
Right.
And all kinds of questions come out once they realize it's okay to ask you questions.
Yeah.
And I just think that it's incredible.
Yeah. And that's really what that's what I love. I love having the opportunity to come into classrooms because, number one, the students, I think they're around their friends and they're around their group of people that they're comfortable with. So they can ask questions, but then through them asking questions, there are students who are comfortable with sharing their own disability stories of having a disability and learning disabilities, and or they have a relative who uses a wheelchair or crutches or something like that, where they bring it up in the classroom and other students are just like, really? Oh, I didn't know. So it makes it all comfortable for people to start a conversation with everyone, and that's what I really am appreciative of you, for letting me come in. I remember the one time we came in, I came into your class, and I think I was there most of the day.
Yeah.
And you had your students write, or you had me write a story for your students about my day and what it's like to start my day. So I wrote maybe a page or two that was talking about getting out of bed and my leg muscles not working, so I have to wear braces and I have to put my braces on, and how I get in and out of the shower, and how I make food from my wheelchair, and it just told a life in a story of a day in my life. And then I came in to talk to the students, a couple weeks after they read my brief story. And I'm talking about my life, and you see the kids pointing at each other, and they're like, "Wait, I think that's the guy we read a story about." And so it all just like came, and like you literally like the mind blown emoji, like if you if that could have happened,
like
I
full
think
circle.
Yeah, and it was like, wait, and then in every single class, after I talked for a few minutes, there was a student that raised their hand and said, "Did you write a story that we read a couple weeks ago?" And I'm like, "I did." So and it was like, "I knew that was you. It sounded like it was you." So it was just the way that you could, relate that. And it was they're talking about point of view, I believe, them writing point of view stories, and to relate that to your lesson. And then it was the Jackie Robinson book, Jackie's
I was just
9.
gonna say that.
Yeah, so that was I came in and talked about two topics, two of the 9 topics. I think it was courage and determination.
Yes.
I believe.
Look at you. Good memory. See that?
Look at me. Well,
that
because
book's incredible.
because that really, it made me those 2 experiences made me realize that it's not, like I'm talking about my disability, but it fits into everyday life. Because, and it goes back to the OurView name of, I'm sharing my story from my point of view. So that the fact that you were able to have your students write a story about their point of view of something, and me, and tie them in together, it was just like, that blew my mind. I was like, wow, like this is really crazy.
It really was an incredible moment. And, I remember the Q&A, the students asking you so many questions, and just how amazed they were that you can do normal things, like everyday things that they do. And I remember specifically the 2 biggest ones being, wait, you can swim?
Right.
And the second one saying, wait, you can go on rides, amusement park rides? Do you remember?
Yes, and they invited me to Clementon Park for their their trip, and I showed up.
That was awesome. So it was like a month later, and they were beyond. That was the highlight of their day.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah,
that was really cool, because I remember them saying, like, "We really want you to come," and I said, "No, I will show up. Like, you don't understand."
I was like, "Oh, he'll come."
Like, you don't understand. Like, you don't challenge me with like a good time. I'll show up. And then when I did show up, they were really surprised. Like, "Oh my gosh!"
It's even more. Of course, we're excited to see you, but just it goes along with that fact of just because you shared your story, you were able to then take it a step further for them and like model it. Like, yes, this is me in my everyday life. You're going to see me do some of the things that you can do with you. And there's nothing that's bigger than that for them to see that example.
Yeah, I think that was
really cool.
I think that was, like you said, I think that's what tied it all in together, because I can talk. It's one thing to talk about something, but to actually see it in action is like it's a whole different ball game at that point, where it's just it's like, oh wait, like he did say he likes to ride rides, and he did say he he likes to do these things, and here he is, he's at the park with us. Like, that's really cool. But I also remember about that time where you had your observation at the last class of the day.
Oh, and I don't remember. Was you in there?
Yeah, and you tried to see if they could come back another day because you weren't teaching your lesson that day because I was presenting to your class, and I think it was with the principal and I guess the department head of the English department, and they said, "Oh no, it's fine, it's okay." Well, the way that and I say we because we really did that presentation together.
Because I know your whole life, it was easy I feel like I tag team in your conversations anyway, because I'm like, oh yeah, then there was this one time.
They said, I don't know what just happened, but that you need to take that show on the road because Lindsay said one word and you had a whole story about it.
Well,
that's what happens.
A lot of years of friendship.
That's what happens when you know somebody and you spend a lot of time and you get to know people. And that I think that's what's important about our friendship, is that it wasn't just like being in elementary school and when I first started like middle school and high school.
Yeah.
It having the insecurity of having a disability and asking why are people becoming friends with me was a big thing for me. Like, are they becoming friends with me because they feel sorry for me? I have a large family. So it's like they have no choice. They have to be around me as, having a family. But it's like, why are people becoming friends with me? I realize it's like I realize I'm different. I realize I have to use crutches in the wheelchair. Is it because they feel sorry for me, or is it because they're genuinely interested in knowing me and getting to know me and who I am? And that's the one thing that you were always genuine with, of getting to know me and genuinely wanting to know about me. And I remember we had conversations about the pain that I have, and it's like, well, what does it feel like, and how do you what do you do to fix it? And we just had this conversation again a couple weeks ago, I believe.
With the rain, with all the rain.
With all the rain and being in the house for the last couple of months. And, you asked how you asked how I was making out with it and how my body was feeling, and, offering solutions and things like that. So I think that's what, that's where we were able to tag team very well on that presentation, just to, because you genuinely know me, and you've, through all of these years have taken the time to get to know me and introduce me to your family, and, have me around your children. And it's just really something I'm grateful for. So thank you for that, since we're giving compliments out today.
I can help myself with you.
I know.
I mean, I feel like that me, I don't hold back when I have questions, and it's really, it comes from like a genuine place. I just want to know more. If I know more, it helps me just help you better and others.
It helps you understand things a lot better.
And I love learning, but to parallel with that, it's just how open you are. And there's really nobody else in my life that I've ever had with a disability that I could go to as openly as you. I mean, it's so random. If I have a random thought, I know with you, I can just message you and ask you my random thought of the day.
Absolutely.
And you'll answer it, And I think that it's just incredible that you're an open book to people. And not everybody's that open as you.
Right.
And I think that's also a difficult place, because, some people do view their disability different. If there's a lot of, upsetment or anger that is intertwined with it, they may not be as open to talk about it. And, that's just reading the person, but you've always been more than open. And when you see little kids looking at you, you always talk to them or let them ask questions. And I think it's great, because I encourage my own kids. I don't want them to wonder. I'm like, just ask them,
Right.
just go over.
Yeah.
You can touch his crutches because I know that that's okay with you.
Yeah.
And I think it's great that my kids can see that at their age.
Right. I
They're so
remember.
young.
Yeah, I remember your nephew. I was at their house actually, and I was getting ready to stand up from sitting on the sofa, and he just came over to me and like didn't say anything to anybody else. He just came over to me and said, "Do you want me to help you?" He said, can my Aunt Lindsay help you get up or something like that? I'm like, oh wow. So what I did, to make him feel included, I said, no, what you can do is, I said, I don't need, help to really get up. I said, but can you count for me? Like, can you count to 3 and then and that'll help me, give me energy to get up. And he counted to 3 and I stood up and he was just so excited.
So, that's where you're good. You recognized in that moment that he just wanted to be a help for you.
Right. Yeah. And it was, I'm not sure if he knew exactly what my condition was at that time. He was young, but he knew that like, okay, I think somebody should be helping him maybe. So let me ask and, see. And he was just really calm with it. Like, do you need help? Can I get my mom or my aunt to help you? And I'm like, oh wow, like thanks, but like I'm okay. And then I said, no, wait, let's include him.
It's just like, I love that he, from a young age, my nephews and my own kids are around my family. For instance, when you come to our Christmas parties or every party, they
swim in your pool,
see that. It's exactly. It's not odd for them to see us like, hey, what do you want to eat? Hey, what do you need to drink? Hey, what do you, they're used to that. So now it's just, they just chip right in and do the same thing. And I want them to do that for others, Yeah. So it's moments like that. I don't realize how powerful they are. Kids are watching.
Right. They really are. And for me, even, I like to tell my friends who have kids, like, thank you, because I know like having your kids around people like is a special thing. Like I know people don't let their kids around everybody. So, so I take that as like, I take that as like a real like compliment. And I'm really honored that people allow me to be in their homes around their children because, your children are just starting school, this year. And just the fact that when they get into second, third and grades above and they see somebody that has crutches, they can say, oh, my mom's friend, my dad's friend has crutches. Right. It's no big deal. Right. So that's, and that's where it all really starts because it's just like they have to learn somewhere and it's like, it's okay. And that's where with my nephew, I had to explain to him, they don't live with an uncle that has crutches and uses a wheelchair. They don't know what that means. Like, I understand why you're upset, but like, they don't see this all the time like you do. I do things and drive and that I, that I have to crawl. They don't know any of this stuff.
So use that as a moment to educate.
Right. And it's like, you have to tell them like about this. You have to tell them about me and what I have. I have spina bifida, what happened and tell them about it. Like that's how, and that's the only way that kids and even adults, that's the only way they learn is if people allow them to, and if people share their stories. I think that's, the real important thing. The way things are changing in the world of disability awareness, and it's just little things like weaving it into a commercial where you notice like, oh wait, like they're using sign language, or even a few commercials that have the subtitles at the bottom. Just being aware of that and adding that into their product, into their awareness piece, I think is very, very important to see, and it's important for kids to see it too. So it's,
and I think that it's really cool too, not only for you being able to educate kids, but even there were times that you were going into workplaces and educating employees and employers and managers, and I feel like that too is so important because when you are not born with a disability, or maybe not even born, but when you don't have a disability and you don't know anyone with it, you don't really understand how to look through those lenses. You don't walk through your store and realize, oh, this might be a little bit too high for someone to reach, or maybe I shouldn't put this display here because a wheelchair can't fit past it.
Right.
And I think that just you, going into places and pointing things like that out is really important.
Yeah, it is. And it is because they, like you said, they don't look through that lens because they don't have the personal experience, maybe, or it's much different. I've received text messages from friends of mine who travel outside of the country or just even in the country, and they'll text me like, look at this, like, this is not accessible at all. Like, I think about if you were here and it would be like so terrible for you to get around this place. And, so it's just like to educate everybody about people with disabilities are out in your communities. They do things, they travel, they come into your grocery stores, they come into your shopping malls, into your stores to buy things. And it's really, really important that you do what you can to accommodate, and just doing little things like you mentioned, setting up a display in a different way in a different area that's not as tight or not as crowded, so that there's a risk of somebody knocking it over. And because accessibility, when it's done right, it's a benefit for everybody. It really because even not just wheelchairs, but for mothers, parents who have strollers with their babies, it's just like, things can be tight for them too to get through with the stroller. So to really make things more to make them more wide would be beneficial to to a lot more people than just people in wheelchairs. So it really really can be helpful and beneficial to everybody.
Yeah. And I think what's cool is that once you have those conversations with people, what's really neat to see is it doesn't leave them. It kind of sticks with them to the point where you said, they're sending you pictures and they live in different states. And that's what you wanted to do. You wanted to bring this awareness up and touch one person and just let it ignite, and travel to different people and just have the awareness there. Just having that makes a big difference, because then the next person that comes along to start a business, now that's going to be in their mind. And that's how it's going to just keep evolving,
Right. That's the big thing.
Like
yeah, that's the big thing of why I love talking to students in schools, because I don't know whose child I might be talking to. Our story started on the New Jersey Transit train. One of the students I talked to, their parent could be an executive for New Jersey Transit. And if they go home and talk about my presentation that day, that could be the beginning of creating a change in that, in the area where their parent works. Because
or they grow up to work in that area.
Right. Yeah. If they grow up and become an architect and or, creating buildings or hotel rooms or whatever, insert whatever you want into that blank, they can remember like, oh, I have to make this more accessible, for people with wheelchairs, and incorporate other accessibility features for other disabilities as well. I think is, very important with, you see the, like on fire alarms, they have the flashing lights for the people who are hearing impaired. They can't hear the siren, but they could see the flashing light. So it's, and for people that are visually impaired, they can't see the flashing light, but they can hear the siren going off. So it's, just thinking of that little thing. So like, let's incorporate one thing that does both. So it can alert different, alert different people with the different senses. So it really, really is important. And I think, as you mentioned, it does stick with people through a long time. It's I've been many places where, I've had an adult walk up to me and say, my daughter thinks that you spoke at her school a couple years ago. And I'm like, what school?
Awesome.
Yeah, what school? And they tell me the school, and I'm like, oh yeah, that probably was me. I speak at a local middle school every October for the Week of Respect, and the middle school and high school are connected to each other. So I speak to the sixth graders every October. And to get to the middle school, because of the accessibility of their school, I have to go through part of the high school. So without
Right.
fail, when I'm coming into the school and when I'm leaving, there's always an upperclassman now that's like, hey, you spoke in my
We
sixth
remember
grade
you.
class a couple years
Yeah.
ago. So it's
Oh,
really, and that's really great because it means they paid attention.
yes.
It really, it's really, really a great feeling to know that kids do pay attention.
I just think even you creating, taking it a step further this year too, with now creating, apparel is
Yes.
just a whole nother way of spreading awareness. When somebody's wearing this shirt, it creates a conversation. Like, what is that shirt? What does that mean? And I think that things like that are just another way to reach more people. Whereas, typically somebody wouldn't come up to me and ask me about disabilities, but if they saw me wearing this shirt, now they might be more inclined to ask the question, like, what does that shirt represent? Where did you get that shirt? Why are you wearing
Right.
that shirt?
Yeah.
And it just makes it another moment to have that conversation and educate, another teachable moment.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, I'm glad that I did expand into the apparel world as well. It's
Yes.
I didn't want to at
No, it's
first,
very
but it was
cool.
it was a thing of like, all right, people are asking for it, so it must be
Yeah, it needed to happen.
yeah.
Well, and I think
Well,
just like that, because I bought a couple t-shirts and sweatshirts, and now, I'm like, I need more. And
yeah.
I think just the fact that in the future, like, I want to get more for my kids. It's like just them wearing the shirts and it being a normal thing for them, or a normal thing for them to have a conversation about, that typically wouldn't have happened much for teenager kids or toddlers to talk about.
Right.
I think that that's cool to incorporate that and make that a normal thing for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And
You know?
that's it's so important to start there, when they're young.
Yeah.
And and like I said, so when they do encounter somebody in their classroom or anywhere, they can, they won't be so surprised by it. The
Right.
wheelchair won't be so scary for them, or
Hmm.
such a foreign thing for them to understand. It's like, oh yeah, I see a wheelchair all the time. It's not a big
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah, exactly.
And it'll start that conversation like, oh, well, maybe he has spina bifida like my mom's friend. Or
Yeah. Yep.
so it's really it's really great to be able to offer this great opportunity. Thank you so much for taking the time to
Of course.
have this conversation with me. I definitely wanted to make sure I included you in one of my first
Thank you too.
episodes, just
I
because
appreciate it.
it really uh, like this whole idea started 10 years ago with
I know.
with our one experience on that trip. And it wouldn't be what it is now without that conversation. So I wanted to make sure that I included you and share you and what I appreciate about you as my friend for so many years with everybody. And
Of course.
you're great, and I will be at your house to swim really soon.
Like tomorrow.
Yes, quite possible.
And I think the fact that it is 10 years, we're due for another concert.
Yes. Well, definitely when they
So we
allow
have to make that
concerts
happen.
again. Yes, when they allow
Yeah.
concerts to happen again, we will be back on the concert scene for sure. That's one of the
There we
things I miss
go.
the most.
I
Live
know you
shows is
do.
live
Yes.
shows is one of the things I miss the most.
Yeah, me too.
But so
Well,
I
thanks
like
for
I said,
having me.
yes, thank you so much, and I'm sure we can think of some other topics to discuss, and we'll have
Sounds
another
good.
conversation on another episode coming up soon.
Sounds good. I'll be there.
All right. Thank you so much. And I will talk to you soon, Linz.
All right. Bye.
All right. Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of the OurView Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the OurView Podcast on Anchor, Apple Podcast, or Spotify. New episodes will be released on the 15th and 30th of every month. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at OurView for Life. That's OurView, the number 4, LIFE. Do you want to help change the tone of conversation among your family and friends? Head over to our website for some OurView merchandise. Our website is www.our, view.com/merchandise. I thank you for listening. Have a great day and take care.